evening, everybody. Welcome to Zoom at 8. It is a small group tonight, but the best are in the house. So again, my name is Julianne Peterson, and I am your host every Tuesday night. We have been doing this for a very long time, 4.5 years. We've closed over $200 million of deals in this room. I mean, that is spectacular. So we welcome all newcomers. This is the place to be every Tuesday night. 3 weeks out of the month, we are meeting with industry experts, and 1 week out of the month, we are just networking. So stay. After our speaker tonight, we will have networking. We'll break into small rooms, and you will get the opportunity to meet others in the room. So I am Julie with Old Capital Lending. We are a premier provider of debt. And, you know, if you're looking at something, I would love the opportunity to earn your business, being your premier provider. We would look at your T12, your rent roll, the OM, the offering memorandum, and your underwriting. And we can give you, based on those financials, what the deal will look like today. If the financials change, obviously, so will the debt. So when you're looking at these deals, make sure you're asking the broker, is this the most accurate information? Is there any updated information? Don't be sending me April's T12. Send me July or August, okay? All right, well, welcome aboard, everybody. It is time, like no other time, to introduce you to our wonderful speaker tonight. Again, we bring in industry experts 3 times a month. And I have so much excitement to hear from Kaaren Hall. Kaaren is local to me in Southern California. She founded UDirect IRA Services, which offers Americans the opportunity to invest their IRAs in real estate and other assets. Her mission is to educate investors and professionals about self-directed IRAs, a financial tool with the potential to transform retirees' lives and people like you and I. Currently known to only about 4% of the US investors know about this type of vehicle. So prior to UDirect, Kaaren leveraged her extensive experience in mortgage banking, real estate, and broadcasting to demystify self-directed IRAs through webinars, videos, live events, and social media. She believes that financial literacy is crucial, and her dedication to this cause has made her a prominent advocate for self-directed investing. So without further ado, I want to introduce you all my friend, Kaaren Hall. Kaaren, welcome to Zoom at 8. How are you?
You, Julie. Thanks. Last time I spoke with you was in person. Remember, it was down in San Diego. So really appreciate you inviting me. All these people are raising capital. That's so great. I can help.
Oh, that is so fantastic. Now, listen, before we get started, if everybody would go up to the right-hand side of their screen, and let's give all of our attention to the speaker. Now, you probably see me, but once Kaaren speaks, you'll hear from her. So, Kaaren, I am a user of this platform of self-directed, or actually I use my solo 401k. I was introduced to it probably 5 years ago, and it has been revolutionary for me as an investor. And it is such a great vehicle for other people, maybe not as a capital raiser per se, but we really need to educate our investors and our capital raisers to make them understand how to get into these other the people that they're trying to capital raise, get into their pockets, maybe, if you would say that nicely, but to show them how there might be some ways to bring other types of capital to a transaction.
Right, and there are so many ways to do this, and we've got a group of advanced people, don't you think, Julie? Everybody here is, this is not a beginning class. Am I right?
Well, I think we should give a highlight just so that people understand that, hey, this is not something that you're going to take, not necessarily, and this is what I need some of your direction on, Kaaren.
Yeah.
Can they take the money out of their company's 401k and put it into a solo 401k or an IRA, a self-directed IRA? So I know there's a lot of questions about that. So we're going to need you to kind of walk us through that.
Well, I've got a PowerPoint, so I can do this. And then I'm just especially really interested in everyone's question because I want to solve your capital raising problems. So, but let's talk about the rules with self-directing, shall we? You want to do that?
Absolutely.
All right. I'll share my screen. Here we are. Share. So we'll go through this. And what this is going to do is give you an overview about self-directed IRAs, and then we can go deep on the questions. But I'm the founder of UDirect IRA Services, and I founded this company in 2009, and we helped thousands of people all over the country to self-direct. So I'm located in Irvine, California, and we have accounts in every single state. What we don't do is give tax and legal advice. So if you need tax and legal advice, I think there are CPAs and attorneys on this call, so that might work for you. So let's get going here. First off, self-directed IRAs are all about retirement. It's all about saving for later. And we all need to build our nest egg, right? Because there's a huge deficit between what Americans have and what we need to retire. Of course, you're all raising capital and you're busy on your quest to have a great life and a great retirement too. And you can help other people have a great retirement when you use their retirement dollars to invest in your deals and then successfully, pay them out, either debt or equity, right? So you can also help other people with their retirement goals. Now, here is a really important screen for anybody raising capital. If you want to raise capital from retirement investors, there are two questions that you want to ask. One is, do you have an IRA? And almost everyone will say yes. And the other thing is, do you have a 401k or a retirement account with your previous employer? So if the person you're asking says yes to either one of those things, they can invest in your deal and they probably didn't even know that. Isn't that crazy? So self-directed IRAs and retirement represents about a $40 trillion pool of money. And this has been around for a long time. So it's great for capital. If you haven't heard about self-directed IRAs, and just imagine that there are others who haven't either, like CPAs and attorneys sometimes, but it's been around since 1975. Gerald Ford signed this into effect. That gives you an idea of how long it's been. So it's been around for a long time. Now, an IRA is an IRA, right? So it's a bucket that holds assets. And whether or not it's self-directed depends upon what kind of assets it holds. I was just in the elevator and I was riding up the elevator. Guy had a Transamerica shirt on. And I said, "Oh, do you do title?" He goes, "No, I do, financial. I do, he's a financial advisor." And so he does, the left side of your screen and I do the right side. So he does market correlated assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, CDs. But the self-directed IRA opens that door, and now you're investing in rental properties and, all these Reg A, B, C, D offerings that get you into deals in multifamily or maybe mobile homes or self-storage, all different kinds of assets. So the self-directed IRA gets you into the alternative assets, even precious metals, lots of different. So what about losses, right? You've got to begin with the end in mind. This is like Stephen Covey 101, right? It's one of the 7 habits. But you need to do your due diligence up front. It's easy to open an account, get it funded, and invest. But before you do any of that, this is what you want to think about. You want to be thinking about that asset. What are you investing in? Do you understand it? Who are you investing with? Do you understand them? Have you researched them? And look at the deal. What do the docs actually say? There are just so many things to know. So do your homework, because whenever a retirement account loses money, it's not tax deductible. It's just unfortunately gone. So make sure you do your due diligence up front. Just super crucial, and we could have a whole event about due diligence, but I'm sure you've done that as well. But just understand due diligence is key in this process. So we'll talk about the rules, self-directed rules, and there are limits. When the IRS created IRAs, they said an IRA, individual retirement arrangement, can invest in anything except life insurance contracts and collectibles. So that it leaves this like wide open for different asset classes, right? So not a car collection, not fine wine collection, not collectible art, not life insurance, but other things like, well, technically your IRA could invest in a racehorse. We were talking about this last night, but that's not an asset that we will custody. So there's what the IRS says, high level, and then medium level is what the custodian says they will or will not accept as a business decision. They can say, no, that asset isn't administratively feasible. We don't choose to custody that asset. So there are two levels of scrutiny. Now, if your funds are with your current employer, you're asking this just a minute ago, Julie.
Right.
If your funds are with your current employer, probably can't use that money. You typically have to wait till you leave the employer. But if you have a 401k, you can go to your plan administrator and say, hey, I work here, but I'd like to move some money to an IRA. Can I? Does this plan have what's called an in-service transfer provision? So it's like a contractual thing. It's not a law, it's a contractual thing. So they'll look at the plan document. Is there an in-service transfer thing? And if there is, then you can move the money while you still work there. But typically that's not allowable. You typically have to wait till you leave the service. So all of these IRS rules, I'll make them simple for you, and they're all written down if you want to go deep on it. So here's something to jot down, irs.gov. That's the IRS's website. And it's super accessible, easy to read. Publication 590 delves into it, and it talks about IRAs, which is traditional IRAs and Roth IRAs, how you get the money in, how the money comes out, even touches a little bit on prohibited transactions, which I'll talk about. So Pub 590 says you don't borrow money from an IRA, a personal use, okay? And you can take a 60-day loan once in a 12-month period for all the IRAs you own once, but it's not really a note. It's more of a withdrawal, and you have to put it back in 60 days. But you can't borrow from an IRA like you can from a 401k. You don't sell anything that you already own to the plan. So your IRA doesn't buy a house that you already own. The IRA, the retirement account, is not security for a loan. I mean, I know how many times we filled out a 1003 and we put down our retirement. And I think the reason for that is not as collateral, but the underwriter on a mortgage is just looking, and Julie, you can verify that you're just looking to see that if this person had to liquidate something to come up with a payment, do they have any reserves? But it's not exactly security for them. And your IRS doesn't buy a property for personal use now or later. I mean, we'll talk about that too, but it's all about later. IRA is all about later. With self-directed IRAs, there's this unusual rule that doesn't really exist anywhere. I've never seen it anywhere else. If you have, let me know. But some people can be disqualified to the plan. The plan is the account, okay? So the disqualified people are your ascendants and descendants. So it's your parents, grandparents, you and your spouse, and your kids, and their spouses. All right, plus a fiduciary. Fiduciary is somebody who has your best interest at heart, like a CPA, or maybe an attorney or a realtor. And also a 50-50 business partner. These people are disqualified. So kind of keep that in your mind, disqualified people. The qualified people can still be in your family. They can be your aunts and uncles and your cousins and your brothers and sisters. That's fine, nieces and nephews. They're fine, they're qualified. So let's put this kind of into a framework to be understood. How to stay away from a prohibited transaction. This is winning the self-directed IRA game, is keeping away from prohibited transactions. So neither you nor anybody else who is disqualified can benefit from this IRA. Your IRA doesn't make a loan to your mom. Your IRA does not buy a property from your dad. Your IRA doesn't give your children money to go to school, that sort of thing. Disallowed people can't benefit today. Also, you don't buy, sell, or exchange assets between the plan and these people. Pretty straightforward, easy to understand. But the third one really gets people messed up. A disallowed person, that includes you, if you're the account holder, you don't provide services to the plan. So say your IRA buys a property. You got this property, maybe a single family, condo, whatever. You don't go in there swinging the hammers, You don't go in there changing the garbage disposal. That's called an over contribution of sweat equity. How do you like it? And so you're not allowed to do that. It's also offering, services to the plan if you are an asset sponsor. Your own retirement account won't invest in that deal because you have a C-suite responsibility, right? And so you can't invest in that. Prohibited transactions, keep away, don't do it. If you're confused, I'll answer all your questions now about this. But if you want to just jot down info@udirectira.com, I'm really happy to talk to you offline, 20-minute consultation with me or my staff, and we'll chat with you about whatever you want to know about your particular situation. So in the self-directed IRA game, right, that's what we're talking about, there are players. So there's you, the account holder, and then there's your IRA. Okay, this IRA is one of your financial tools. And then there's UDirect IRA services. Okay. And when I founded the company, I interviewed a lot of banks and trust companies and started working with a company that we've been working with for over 14 years called American Estate and Trust to be our back office, do the cash management, and they're bonded and insured against theft and fraud. They're the trust company. So that's how that works. I think from what I've heard tonight that many of the people on the call tonight are real estate investors. So I think this is appropriate to talk about, should I invest in real estate using one of these tools? I mean, you can, but should you? So that's up to you. When you buy real estate, one of the great things is that when you buy it with an IRA, all the gain is tax-free or tax-deferred. Tax-free in a Roth, tax-deferred in any other account. And that's any proceeds from sale, rent, what have you. You're not going to pay tax on that till you actually take possession. There's no time limit either for buying a property. Somebody was talking about was a 1031, I believe, and 1031s, the clock is ticking. No, there's no clock ticking in an IRA like that. An IRA can borrow money. I know we've all been really successful in real estate using leverage, so we'll talk about that deeper in a second. But I think the very best reason to use a self-directed IRA to invest is because you compound faster. You invest, the money comes back, it's not diminished by tax, so it can all go out into the next deal, right? And churn and churn and churn and not be diminished by tax. So you've got more money to invest in the next deal. That's the power, the power of money. But the downside about buying real estate with an IRA is you probably get more tax advantages if you buy it personally. So this is a question. There's this property. Should I use my retirement? Should I buy it personally? I don't know. Well, you want to talk to your CPA. You want to look at the numbers. You're not going to be able to do a cost segregation because there's no tax. So how can your IRA do a cost seg? You don't need it because there's no tax. So you don't get as many tax benefits. But the thing of it is, maybe you don't have the money personally, or you have bad credit. This happens. But you do have enough money in a retirement account, or maybe partnering with someone else. Between the two of you or three of you, you've got enough money to take down this asset. So maybe then it makes sense, because otherwise you might just miss the deal. So there's the pros and cons. Part of my background, like Julie was saying, is residential mortgage lending, and I was in loan servicing first. And we called it cleaning up after the elephant. And then I got into loan origination for a while. And it was one of those refi booms. And I won't even tell you. But I was really surprised to learn that a bank would make a loan to an IRA account. So it's kind of like a commercial loan. It's called a non-recourse loan. Okay. So if the IRA doesn't pay the loan back, the lender can come against the subject property, but not against you personally, which is great, and not against any other assets that you have in that account. Non-recourse. That sounds pretty cool, right? But wait, there's more. Not a lot of lenders to choose from. That's one thing that's important. That's why we made a list, and I'd be very, very happy to share it with you. Again, shoot me an email, info@udirectira.com. I'll shoot you that list of non-recourse lenders. It's not necessarily that we endorse them, but it's just for your convenience, because you'd spend all week looking for them. These non-recourse lenders have different underwriting guidelines than your typical lender, because they want to, number one, see that there's cash flow on the property. And a lot of times they want you to have a rental agreement in place before you even close. And it's not like a residential loan where you can put 5% down these non-recourse lenders are going to look for more skin in the game, more IRA money in the deal, maybe, 40, 50, 60% in, and then the rest leveraged. Now, you also can't personally guarantee a loan to the IRA. And if you'll remember, it's because you're disqualified to the IRA and you can't provide personal benefit to them. So that's a prohibited transaction. So you don't do that. But there's this is really the most important thing about leverage in an IRA is there's a special tax. And if you don't know this, well, you're just, it could be bad news. By the way, this tax also appears in syndications. It's called unrelated debt financed income. So if your IRA uses leverage to acquire an asset, to acquire like a property, say it's 30% leveraged, then 30% of the revenue that comes back from that asset was earned because of leverage. And so that's a portion that's taxed, it's UDFI tax. And also, if you are investing in a syndication, which is again a Reg A, B, C, D offering, and that asset sponsor is also taking the leverage in the deal, that leverage, and your IRA invests as an equity partner, that leverage is going to kick off UDFI tax to you, and you'll need to file a 990T. Okay?
Can you say that one more time? Oh, that's the 598 or 990T.
Yeah, the form that, like you and I, we file a 1040. Mm-hmm. The IRA files a 990T tax form. But the publication on the IRS website is 598. So if you want to read all about it, talk to your tax advisor. If they say what, then find another tax advisor. Want to make sure they know what a 990T is. But you can read about it on publication 598 IRS. There's also UBIT, unrelated business income tax, when your IRA invests in an active business. So sometimes like Airbnbs could be an active business, could pull off UBIT tax. Don't you think you want to know that before you have your IRA invested in a rental property? Yeah, you do, because if the tax is high. It's only on, anyway, we'll have your CPA calculate that because I don't give tax advice, but you need to know it's there when you are deciding. Again, like I was saying, you've got to begin with the end in mind. So if you think UBIT or UDFI are going to come into play, that's a great conversation to have with your tax advisor. Not so they can guide you, not just so they can guide you forward, but also so that they can handle it on the back end, so they can file that 992 when they need to. So when you buy real estate or really any other asset, the process is to first get that account open and get it funded. Most important, because you can't invest without the open account. It used to be, when I very first started in this business in 2007, you could find deals. It was like crazy. People were, I found a deal, I need to open an account. Now they didn't even have an account. And it could take 2 weeks to get the money in the account because we're waiting for a third party to move your money over, right? So open your account, get the money in there, then choose your asset. Maybe if it's a property, great. Then, so you're going to give us a direction letter, which is a small form that we have on our website. We review it, and once it's approved, maybe we need extra documentation. It's not as arduous as underwriting a mortgage, but maybe we need more information. So once we get everything we need, we'll fund it, it gets recorded, your tenants move in, and they make their rent checks payable, not to you, never to you personally, but always to your IRA. So any asset sponsor who's listening, anybody raising capital who's listening, the worst thing you can do for your investor is make the proceeds payable to the investor directly if they're an IRA investor, because it blows that protective bubble, the tax protection of the retirement if they take personal possession of that money. The money always goes back in. It must. Otherwise, then you've taken personal possession and it's not an IRA anymore. It's just your checking account. That's how you're treating it. So be super careful. There are exceptions, to one of the rules we're talking about that has to do with disallowed people. And so here's how that works. So 2 disallowed people, it could be mother and son, father and son, whoever, husband and wife. You can be disallowed to each other and still invest together as long as you do so concurrently. And what that means is that your ownership interest in that asset records at the same time. It's concurrent. So in this case, we've got dad, he's got cash, son has an IRA, they have a title policy that reads tenants in common. And also breaks down their pro rata ownership, in this case, 50. And yeah, they're disqualified. But again, as long as they didn't own that property beforehand, then the disqualified rule doesn't come into place until closing, until you actually own that deal. Now, after the deal, that's when it comes into play, and they could never sell their asset to each other. And there you go. And none of their ascendants or descendants, none of the disqualified people in their lives can ever live in the property or buy it or have any.
So let me just back up. If it's in a trust, how does that, when the dad dies, how does that get distributed?
Yeah, that would be a mess, right? That would be a mess. Yeah, that's a good question. When you first said trust, so let's talk about this. Oh, I see. An IRA is like a trust. And so I actually haven't seen that. You asked me the one question I don't have the answer to, which is true, because I've never seen it happen. But if dad was in a trust, and then they probably have to sell the property. Yeah, that's what they do. They probably have to liquidate, because there's no other way to get around the prohibited transaction rule. But hey,
no, father trust gets converted into inherited IRA, and you can maintain the property.
All right. Well, Alex just gave us a little bit of his knowledge there.
But if the dad owned it personally and it was in a trust, the trust could get it still wouldn't work. Actually, you'd still have to sell the asset, is my opinion. But then, hey, when this happens, we'll go deep on it. We'll get to that. But if it was an IRA, and if it was an inherited IRA, and the son inherited the IRA, and the IRA inherited, you know what I mean? That might work. Okay, so expenses on these are split pro rata, whatever the split may be. And same thing with expenses, split 50-50. So, the utility bill comes in, or the tax bill, and dad pays half out of his pocket, son pays half out of his retirement account. And that, so it can work that way. You can invest with disallowed people. Another thing that's really crucial to be a self-directed IRA investor is you've got to know that all expenses of the IRA assets have to be paid for with IRA money. Has to be paid for with money from the account that owns the asset. So what if you don't have enough money to cover something? Lately, oh gosh, with all the private equity, it is so common now, I can't even tell you how common it is to see these capital calls, because so many people have private equity deals. They've got leverage, right? And now maybe the leverage matured, and now they've got to get some new leverage, and it's at a higher rate. So capital calls are really prevalent. When your IRA gets a capital call, you've got to have reserves to cover them. So if you don't have enough, what can you do? One of the things you can do is contribute. And that depends upon your age, your account type, and your income, how much you can put in. You could liquidate other assets in the IRA. Maybe the IRA has got, precious metals, and you sell them and use that money to make up the difference. Or transfer money, or roll over money from another retirement account. You could do that, roll over cash. You could bring on a debt partner, and that would be like a non-recourse debt partner. And if you can't do any of these, you'll have to sell the asset. So just this really highlights how important it is for the IRA to have reserves. It depends upon your asset class. Some assets don't need reserves, but some do. And so you need to leave some money in the retirement account for these reasons. I bet everybody's heard about the checkbook IRA. It's something fun to say. It's really an IRA-owned LLC, if you look it up. And so what this is, it started in 1996. There was a legal case called Swanson v. Commissioner. And that was the genesis of this whole thing. But basically, the IRA is open and has money. A third party creates a special purpose LLC. Now, you're not going to go, do this in your own name, because your IRA can't invest in an asset you own. So you have to have a third party create the brand new special purpose LLC in the name of the IRA. IRA buys 100% of the initial units, and the money goes from the IRA into the checking account of the LLC, right? So you've got the IRA that owns the LLC. The money goes from here to here. Now you've got check writing authority. So you have great responsibility, and you are acting just like a custodian. You need to make sure that your IRA-owned LLC is only writing checks either to acquire an asset or to pay for the expenses of it. So nothing else. Otherwise, that blows your tax protection. it's like with great power comes great responsibility. And this is it. And pretty soon the IRS auditors will be trained and out on the streets, and they're coming after you. So if you have one, great. It's a tool you can use. Not every IRA company will do this. We allow it. And you just want to make sure that you're buttoned up, that you've got good books. You're keeping, maybe you've got QuickBooks or whatever, you've got Quicken or something. I think your books show that every dime either paid in expense of the assets or was spent to acquire it. So we call these self-directed IRAs. You hear that a lot, but it's more than just that. It's a traditional, a Roth, a SEP, a simple, a spousal, an inherited IRA. And now these other qualified plans are not really self-directable. A defined benefit plan can be self-directable. I mean, it is by nature. It could say that in the plan document, but the first three on the qualified plan list are employer plans for employers with many employees. We offer the individual K, the solo K. Maybe you heard it called an EQRP, whatever that means, but it means a 401k for an individual person. That's what it all means. We offer these. They're great. You can also self-direct a Coverdell, and that's also called an ESA. It's an education savings account for kids or a health savings account. You can self-direct one of these if you have something called an HDHP from your employer, high deductible health plan. So if you have a high deductible health plan, you can have a health savings account and self-direct. So these are all kinds of plans that can be self-direct. Good to know. So how do you do this? When I was first learning about self-directed IRAs and trying to understand it myself, I had to break it down to the simplest portions. How do you do this? You open, fund, invest. Open an account, get the money in there, and then invest. And then 100% of the proceeds from that asset that are due to the account have to go back in the asset or the account that owns the asset. That's super cool. One little caveat here to talk about, we have a lot of asset sponsors. Sometimes somebody will invest in a deal. An asset sponsor has a deal, and they probably have lots of maybe different funds. And they did really well in Fund A, and they want to go, and they just had a liquidity, and they got paid out. Now they want to take that money and go into the next deal with that same asset sponsor. You can't just move the money from deal to deal. The money first has to go back to the IRA account and then out into the new deal. And why? It's because otherwise the custodian doesn't know it's custodying an asset. I mean, then you've taken constructive use of your IRA, and then it could be a prohibited transaction. So make sure that when your IRA investors want to go from deal to deal, that the money first goes back to the IRA company, and then it can go back out to you. New docs are signed, and the trust company says, yeah, we'll hold this asset, because you don't want to put your investor in a bad situation. So that's something I've seen a lot. But there you go. So, happy to talk to you. This is my contact information. We are all over social media. We have a free report on our website that goes deep into the various asset classes that you can invest in. I'm speaking at Bigger Pockets in a couple weeks. If you guys are going to Florida, I'll see you there. And I just love to answer any questions that anybody has.
Perfect. Let's open it up to the audience, and let everybody make sure you get. Oh, okay, perfect. You hold that down. All right. I do have lots of questions about this, Kaaren, because I opened up a solo 401k, and the custodian is gone. The guy sold it. He's gone. Whoever he sold it to is not communicating. He wants to charge me. I try and send the money. It gets returned. I'm like, okay, what is going on here? What is my responsibility to having a custodian? This person, this company that's out there, I don't know even if what they're doing. If they don't, am I in a violation of my managing of this? And would I need to just start with another company and start all new LLC, or how does that work?
Okay, when did this happen?
About a year ago.
Okay, it's time to take some action. So when you have a solo K, this is not true for IRAs, but a solo K, it's a 401k. You are the trustee of the plan. So you have that level of responsibility and to file every year. And so you can talk to your tax person too. But where is your cash? Is it in a checking account that the
It is in a
401k?
checking account.
Okay, then you have access to the cash. Somebody else doesn't have your cash.
No.
So what you have is you have a plan document already, right? Which is probably current because it's been about a year. You're the trustee of the plan.
I set this up about 5 years ago.
All right. So you could, like, for example, not like the kind of 401k that we offer, we hold the funds, and our account holders don't do what you're doing. But what you would do is you could move over to another custodian or talk to somebody else and transfer your existing plan document into a new company that would keep you updated with new plan documents as they come out from the IRS. I don't think you've blown it at all, because they're not there, because you are the trustee of your plan. They were just pretty much there to set up the plan, and so I don't think you're harmed in any way. But definitely, send an email to your tax provider, your tax advisor, I should say, and tell them the situation, and just say, hey, I need to, because if your 401k earns a certain amount of money, you need to file a 5,500 EZ, maybe.
Correct.
If you made over 250k. So you just want to make sure you're staying compliant. If you took any money out, you have to let them know. You have to let the IRS know. So talk to your tax person. But I think you're okay. I don't think you're in too much hot water.
I did find that the 5,500 that needs to be filled out at 250 was quite difficult. Like, it was hard to get people to understand, like CPAs. My CPA didn't know how to fill it out. He says, you need to go find someone else.
Yes.
So just people that are thinking about this, just make sure that you have a CPA that has an understanding of these types of accounts.
Well, I can add something here that's important, and that is that, like UDirect IRA services, for our employees, we have a 401k that's not self-directed. It's a regular 401k. And so what we do when we have to file our documentation every year, we have a third-party administrator that does all the safe harbor testing. When you get into ERISA world, which is out of IRA world, and you get into companies with many employees, it's a different ballgame, and it's much more complicated. And they have to do all this testing. But if you need a special third-party administrator for your plan, I'm happy to recommend it. Your CPA won't do it. You need an administrator, a special administrator.
Okay, that is great. Good to know.
Yeah, totally help you.
I do want to make sure that everybody understands, on a solo 401k, is that what you would use if you're self-employed? And you would use your self-directed IRA if you have a W-2. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, let's talk about this. So the IRA plans, some of them are for, anybody, and you could be a W-2 employee and have a traditional or Roth. Some are for self-employed people, like the SEP, the Simplified Employee Pension, and the Simple IRA, which people don't even use anymore because the SEP is so much better. There's just, why would you even do a Simple? Pretty much no one does. But those two IRAs are for employers. So you can have an IRA that could be for an employer, or an IRA that can be for an individual.
But if you're like me, I'm an 1099 earner.
Yes.
I would not have a self-directed IRA. I would have a solo 401k. Is that correct?
Well, you probably would want that. Yeah. I mean, you could have one or the other. You could have, and you could have them both simultaneously, actually, because they're different kinds of accounts. So the reason that you want a solo 401k is if you're self-employed and you have got no employees, no full-time employees in any of the companies you own. Yeah. But then you get so many bells and whistles. It's amazing, because the solo K, first off, it has two portions, an employer portion and an employee portion. And the employee portion can be Roth. So you can have like a traditional and like a pre-tax and an after-tax bucket in the solo K. That's pretty cool. You can borrow money from a solo 401k, the lesser of $50,000 or 50% of the account value. You can take out what's called a plan loan. Now you have to pay yourself back, like at the current, like Prime +1 or something, some market rate. Got to pay yourself back in 5 years. Otherwise, it's a prohibited transaction, having personal use of your retirement account. But you pay yourself back. But maybe you want to, use the money as a down payment on an investment. Maybe you want to send someone to college, or you want to take a vacation or whatever. You can borrow money from your own 401k, but not your IRA.
That is amazing. That is a big deal. I don't think a lot of people know about that. That's similar to the
Yes.
infinite banking kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you did talk about the capital calls. You
Yes.
could use then that solo 401k, take a loan against it if they ask you for 50 or a certain percentage.
Yeah.
To give that money towards the capital call, and you could, let's say you close that, let's say they sell it in 2 years, you would let's hope that you would make some money on that. You would repay yourself.
Well, let's talk about that. If you personally own, have invested in private equity, not your IRA, but you personally, and you're personally, hey, Julie, I need your money personally, then yes, you could take a loan from your 401k to cover your capital call. But if your IRA is invested, is an equity owner in private equity, and the IRA gets, hey, your IRA needs a capital call, you cannot borrow it from your 401k, because then it would be personal money, wouldn't it? You could probably transfer money. You can't always transfer 401k money, but you could maybe, if this, like in your case, transfer money from your solo K into like a traditional IRA if you had to take care of that. But yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. So
the two worlds, the retirement world and the personal world.
Yeah. Okay. You answered great questions. All right, Kevin, what is your question?
We have some here in the chat.
Yep. Kevin has got his hand up.
Okay. Yes. Hello. I have a question. I work for New York City Fire Department. I have an annuity fund. When I retire, can I put that into a self-directed IRA?
Yeah, an annuity is the kind of asset that has a surrender value. So if you were to liquidate that annuity, because you could only move over cash. So if you were to liquidate that annuity, you'd probably have to pay a surrender fee. So you want to look at that before you do, and also you want to make sure that that annuity is held in a retirement account, to move it from retirement account to retirement account. An annuity is an asset that's in the basket of a retirement account.
Okay, so wouldn't the IRA,
Annuity?
the self-directed IRA, wouldn't that be a retirement account?
The self-directed IRA is a retirement account, and your annuity is an asset in a different retirement account that you have presently, is what you're telling me. So as long as that annuity is in a retirement, so to move the value of the annuity into a self-directed IRA would have to come over like cash. So you'd have to cash it out. And if you cash out annuity, you'd face a pretty good penalty.
Okay, because they told me when I leave the job, I can retire in 6 months, within 3 to 6 months right now. They told me I would have to take it out of there and put it into another account. Now, how would I do? Where would I put that? I would just have to put it into a regular IRA.
Right. And so if you wanted to self-direct it, though, yes, you could put the annuity into another IRA, yes. But if you wish to self-direct, then you'd have to cash out. So just to say a typical IRA is one thing, self-directed IRA is another. So you got your choice. In a regular IRA, don't cash it out, just throw the annuity in a different retirement account, you're good. But if you want to self-direct and invest in alternative assets with that money, cash it out.
So I'm curious, if he puts it in a standard IRA, could he then take it out into a self-directed? Could it just stop there and then move it into a self-directed IRA?
I think the question is,
cash out.
No, you'd have to cash it out because it's not going to sit in a self-directed IRA. The self-directed IRA is going to receive cash, and then you're going to use that cash to invest in alternative assets. So if the annuity is the asset you want to keep, awesome. That's great, But if you want to invest in alternative assets, you've got to cash out. So I think we kind of talk to you offline.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Who else? Yeah. Great question. Anybody else have a question? Let me see. You talked about solo 401k can borrow money. That is interesting to me, and that's what we kind of talked about. And when you have it with disallowed or disqualified people, that even gets even more complicated if you wanted to borrow in that example, correct?
It would, yeah, it would.
Okay.
Yeah, and you really couldn't do it because then I wouldn't put myself in a situation that complicated with retirement money because it's precious money. You know, you can only contribute so much. But if you think about it, trying to take on a non-recourse loan, then you've got disallowed parties trying to borrow money, and it's just too messy. It really is. It's not that it couldn't be done, but I would want to be a lawyer, you know, to do it. You want to be able to defend that in court or to a tax person. But I think you don't have to be that complicated. I think too, if there was an asset and you wanted to take it down, you could, you know, bring a couple of people together, you know, 2, 3, 4 people, and you know, all have a pro rata share of that deal.
So here's the thing, everybody. These are ways that you can open up opportunities for investors to get to their money. Don't take no for an answer. It could be, hey, have you looked at different types of investing so that you can get to your own cash capital? That's what the solo 401k and self-directed IRA is.
Yeah, all these IRAs, they're just super powerful when you use them. And people love, like, you can use your IRA to invest in crypto. We allow that. You can also invest in precious metals, which is getting to be more popular. And all sorts of different assets. You know, you can buy performing and non-performing debt. Your IRA can be the bank and lend money to somebody. Maybe you know somebody starting a business. Your IRA could have a debt or equity position in that new business, you know, like be a debt partner, make a loan, be an equity partner, you know, buy a share, be a shareholder. The IRA could be a shareholder in someone's business.
So what about cash? We've got oil and gas and car washes. Where are you at with those two? Would that also be allowable?
I mean, not big fans. Not a big fan of either one. Oil and gas has its own amazing tax benefits outside of the IRA, so that you would lose inside an IRA. So you definitely want to do the homework on there and make the best decision for you. A car wash is an active business, and so if your IRA is going to invest in an active business, it's going to have that UDFI tax. But if your IRA were to make a loan to somebody who had a car wash and the owner of the car wash paid your IRA back that loan, that's great. But as an equity partner, I wouldn't invest my retirement money in an active business. Oh,
these are such great questions and great answers. Solo 401k is can have UDFI and UBIT, or is it just self-directed IRA?
Yeah, that is a point of contention. I mean, one of the famous IRA lawyers says yes, that a solo K, when you acquire property, does not have UDFI tax for the debt. And another prominent self-directed IRA lawyer says it does. So I would talk to your tax advisor.
Okay. Fantastic. Alex, did you have a question? I want to make sure if you do, we get it answered.
I did.
Okay.
I did. I had a few, actually. I sent it directly to Kaaren, but let me repeat it. That's all right. Let me just get to that. So actually, one of them, she already answered about investing in debt instead of equity. I was wondering about conversion. So Solo 401k offers Roth Solo 401k. What are the rules about conversion between Solo 401k and Roth IRA? Roth 401k.
Okay. So if you have a Solo 401k and you have pre-tax money in the 401k and you wish to, inside the plan, convert it to Roth, you can do that as long as your plan document allows it. It's called an in-plan conversion, easy peasy. But you're also going to pay tax on the amount you convert.
Okay, fair enough. I think you answered the other questions. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Okay, great.
All right, one last opportunity. We've got the expert in the house, Kaaren Hall with UDirect.
Kelly has a question. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah. Who has a question?
Kelly. Oh, she sent me a direct message. Okay,
Oh, she did. Is there a
Okay, here
question?
we go.
Do you want that?
Okay.
You want to ask it? Okay.
Yeah. She says not everyone can put money into a Roth IRA, right? That is right. But you could still invest in a traditional IRA and roll over into a Roth, convert into a Roth, yes, convert, and pay tax on the conversion, yes, and pay taxes on the traditional and have your money then be tax-free, a tax-free income source. I think I'm saying it right. So you're right. A Roth IRA is a great tool. And you can contribute to a Roth IRA as long as you don't make too much money. And it's around, I don't know, in the 200,000s as a individual and about 300 as a couple. It's on our website, udirectira.com. So you can make too much money to contribute to a Roth. So maybe you've heard of what's called the backdoor Roth, where you can contribute to like a traditional and convert. You could do that to get money into a Roth. So you're investing, tax-free. But Kelly's absolutely right. Not everyone can invest in a Roth. But there's a lot of good news on the forefront, about Roths. So I just got an email today. I didn't even have a chance to read it because it was so crazy today. But here's what happened. This is interesting, hot off the press. So in the end of 2022, the government passed this rule called the Secure Act 2.0. And it did some things for retirement accounts, lots of cool things. One of the things it did is it said that in 2023, right now, you can make a Roth contribution to a SEP or simple IRA. What? This is totally, yeah. But they haven't given us any guidance about that, like how much and what, so we don't have any guidance on it. So if you're self-employed and you could be a solo, solopreneur, you could have an LLC, S Corp, C Corp, whatever, and you could have a SEP IRA and put the lesser of 25% of your income up to $66,000 for 2023 into a SEP IRA, and it could be Roth. Okay, so that's kind of, it's a law, but then it hasn't been it's the government just not giving us direction. But isn't that cool? So if you want to have tax-free money, I mean, to Kelly's point, it's a pretty great thing. So yeah, you could absolutely do that.
All right, Kevin, let's ask the question and then we have to get on with networking. So what do you got?
Oh, okay. I also, besides the annuity, I also have a 457. Would I have to do the same thing with the 457? Cash it out and then move it over?
Right. So what you would do is, yes. So 450, there are different kinds of 4 plans, like a 403B that could be for somebody who's like a nurse or a teacher or something, a 457 if you work for the government, like you as a fireman, or a 401k for people that work in regular commercial business, right? So 457 is a regular retirement account. When you leave the service of that employer, when you leave the fire department, you call their plan administrator and say, hey, roll that, and they're going to liquidate it and roll that over into this other thing. So you want to talk to the plan administrator if you're 457, but you can absolutely roll it over. Yes.
But he's going to be
Well, I
taxed
also
on
have
that.
to, yeah.
If you move it from custodian to custodian, there's no taxation.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. You bet.
Very powerful. So if anybody has questions for you or how to get this done,
yeah,
you make yourself available or your staff available to answer these questions, get us on the right track and answer our questions. If you set us up with an account and we have questions, do we go to you directly? Do we then go to your custodian company? How does that work?
No, you just go to us. The custodian doesn't have, it's like an insurance company. You don't talk to Wisconsin, you talk to your insurance agent, I mean, we're not an agency or a franchise, but it's like that. So we're your point of contact for everything. There's one fee, there's not 2 fees, it's 1 fee, annual fee, $275 is all, it's very low fee. $50 setup fee, $275 a year, regardless of the number of assets and regardless of the value of those assets in your account. That's nice. And so, a couple other fees, like if you bounce a check or your renters bounce a check, or you want a cashier's check, or you need something overnighted, there are little fees for that, but we are very light on the fees. People love that.
I would tell you that that is true. There are other companies out there that are asking for $3,500 to set up. That is garbage. You don't need that.
No.
Yeah, Kaaren is, very fair and has a proven track record. Alex, what do you got?
Yeah, just one last question. Can you have multiple solo 401ks?
Not really. You can have, I mean, you can, but I mean, it's sort of frowned on. I wouldn't do it. Why would you do it? I mean, like, you don't need multiple solo 401ks unless it's for asset protection. Why would you do that? What would be your motivation there?
5,500
That's a
to
good question.
50,000, 5,500. Keep the assets below.
No, I think you'd have to.
250.
I think it would be like a control group, and you might have to amalgamate that into one. I would ask your tax advisor. I don't think you're going to save yourself any by having two plans. It's usually frowned upon.
But your husband could have one, and your wife could have, and the wife could have one.
Actually, here's the thing. This is pretty cool with the solo case. So if the husband and wife both own the same company, just hypothetically,
Yeah,
they're both owners, you can have one plan, and husband and wife can both be a participant in the same plan.
right.
So what that means is, here we go, is that husband and wife could potentially stick away 130 at the top, like $132,000 away in a solo 401k and pay themselves instead of the IRS if they want to, do a pre-tax contribution. Is that nuts?
That is powerful.
That's what's possible. How'd you like to, save $132,000 for your future and get a massive tax break today? That's a powerful thing about retirement kids.
Amazing. All right. Kaaren, once again, thank you so much for everything. You're such a wealth of knowledge in this area and certainly an expert. So thank you so much.